We are live. Yeah, guys, look, if you've got any questions, feel free to jump in now because last week was unreal. It was unbelievable with the amount of questions. It was 90 minutes of just, a flurry of punches. So, g'day, Shane Booth. Great to have you in the house. So if you want, I've got, some folks on standby who are going to bounce some questions. That looks like JDC join. Welcome. If you've got anything related to construction you want me to have a crack at answering, then be sure to let me know. Welcome, Jeremy Druin. I'm having trouble catching everyone. Welcome, Kadra. Good to see you. Hampton, Ryan.
So we do have a few comments going on that 25-year-old gangster video.
The gangster, yeah.
There was another person that said, "So what do we do from here?" So I don't know.
I think that video was the video that's just dropped probably 15, 20 minutes ago. Welcome, Mozzie 888. That's got to be an Aussie because they don't call them Mozzies over here. Welcome, Johnny Prime. Look, the gangster video that just dropped was really, I was alluding to in a podcast. I was actually talking about, a lot of guys and gals are talking to me going, hey, I want to be a general contractor. I'm 20 years old. I'm about to finish my apprenticeship and I want to be a general contractor. Now, I said to a couple of guys and gals on messages that I've responded to that I did 16 years of framing and finishing and exterior and shit before I actually went and got my builder's license. Now, where I come from in Australia, it's really tricky to get your builder's license. It's a pretty hardcore, what we call a certificate for in building and construction. And so I actually got the application and looked at it several times and just went, no, I can't do that because it's too bloody hard. But the third time round, I did it by correspondence. And I went down a little bit of a different avenue, and so I ended up getting it. But I was in the game for, let's say, 20 years, including my apprenticeship. So I started in 89, and I got my builder's license in 2009. So, I don't know where it is with you guys, as far as how hard is it to get a builder's license. But, it's certainly QBCC is a pack of tyrants. Mozzie 888, and obviously you're Craig Lowndes fans, obviously. Give us a heads up. But yeah, QBCC are a challenging bunch of individuals to deal with. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So the problem is not, like I've said before, probably on that same podcast, it's like the hardest thing, or the easiest thing I ever did was get a builder's license. The hardest thing I ever did was building a business and making a really, a bloody good life out of it. And so, I just don't, I think it's overrated a little bit. I wouldn't say, oh, no, you've got to hold off for 16 years after your apprenticeship. Don't do that. But what I want you to understand is that the more I do this as a 49-year-old, have been in the industry now for 34 years, is that, running a business, because business is very infinite. It just keeps on going. We've just got to keep doing it. So I think we overestimate what we want to achieve in 12 months and we underestimate what we can actually get done in the next, 5 years. And you think that's frigging a long time ago? I mean, I'm a 16-year-old at heart. There's no question. I'm a bit of a douchebag. But I'm telling you, the age is not really, sometimes my level of maturity can be deemed to be a little younger than 49. So, I think that you've just got to be patient. So to run a successful general contracting company, you really do have to just, there's a lot to learn. There's a shit ton to learn. It's just not about knocking nails into wood. You've got to learn the dynamics of business. You've got to be able to understand that sleeping with the challenges of the business is super difficult. And then here's what you can't fast forward. Here's what you can't beat. What you can't beat is your youthful appearance. And I've seen this. I've seen this in my group with some of my younger operators where they're like, I don't know why I can't close deals. And I'll tell you why you can't close deals. Because you got a 60-year-old, really successful business owner who's retired, he's made a shitload, and you're asking him as a 25-year-old gangster to invest, $600,000 in a second-story addition to his, house that he's just moved into that's right on the lake. And he's going, no, son, I think, I'm going to probably find somebody else. You're a super nice guy. So what I would encourage you to do is be mindful of those challenges. I'm not saying that every human out there is not going to disregard your services because of your youthful appearance, but I'm telling you, you've kind of got to be around that, just looking from, I'm 50, and I'm telling you, if you're a 25-year-old builder and you and I walk into the same client's, house at different times, I will outmaneuver you, Mr. 25, Mrs. 25-year-old. I will outmaneuver you. It's just the way it is. And so, I think that you've got to be mindful of the challenges. You've got to do a SWOT analysis. Look at your strengths, look at your weaknesses, look at your opportunities, look at your threats, and then really just understand that sometimes you can't outmaneuver that. Sometimes you can't fast forward that shit. So while you're waiting, the more you learn, the more you earn. So go and get the builder's license. Go and then focus on understanding systems. I think if I had my phone, but it's up here doing this business. But, like there was one chap when I talked about in one of the videos, do what is hard first. And he's like, define hard. So what I did is I quickly punched out, and I don't know, midnight last night, I literally quickly punched out 6 messages to him, got to do with know your numbers, what's your marketing, what's your sales process, have you documented, all that sort of stuff. And that's really what was the strength, I think in knowing how good you are, is knowing that you've got potential and you really will make it, but you do have to be a little bit patient. Now, it looks like there's one question there from Erasmo Gomez. Thanks for the question. As a 17-year-old, how can I get into this? Now, what I would normally do, and this is where at some point I'd love to know, I would love to go live with one or all of those, all of one of the folks that are with us right now asking questions. I'd love to get on the phone. So just leave a comment or something, like if you wanted to call me and we could work out some way. I'd put my cans on and we'd run you through the system, and I'd love to have a full-blown conversation. So, but how does a 17-year-old get into it? Well, I'll tell you what I did. I got an apprenticeship when I was 16. I did 4 years as an apprenticeship carpenter, and then I did 16 years of running a framing crew up to 15 guys. Oh, Mozzie said, did you bring a guitar in this week? There you go. No, I didn't, bro. I freaking didn't. I will next week, guaranteed. And so, I think as a 17-year-old, you've got to get into the game. And I did my apprenticeship with a builder. I hope we're keeping track of these questions. There's another one there from Jason Meredith. Great. So I did my apprenticeship with a builder. Best thing I ever did. If you can get an apprenticeship with a builder, I don't want to say anything's bad, but I work with a builder who did all kinds of display or show homes. And so I got to work with, actually, me mate Mozzie might even know, Philip Usher Constructions. Anyway, so, I was able to do all different, concreting with Lenny, bricklaying with Gary, working with, Bazza, the other Bazza doing drywall and stuff. It was just a great exposure to all of the trades. So I was not even thinking about being a builder, not like you hotshots. You're like, hey, I'm 20 and I want to be a builder. But if you're 17, you've got to get yourself an apprenticeship. No, that's fine, Mozzie. No sweat, mate. He builds high rises on the Goldie, on the Broadwater. He's got one there called H2O Towers and another one called, I think it's called 360. But anywho, that's what I would do. Now, what was that question that
Jason asked, how do I know when I have enough experience to start running jobs?
Jason, look, thanks for the question, man. Everyone's sort of guessing at that point. I think, okay, so here's what happened to me. A little bit of a different scenario, but I'll try and give you some context. I was like I said, I got my builder's license in 2009. I think I signed contracts on a $1.1 million fiveplex. Now, I had only been doing $50,000 to $100,000 contracts, and so I really didn't feel super comfortable. However, my appetite for risk was through the roof. Typical young fella. When I say young, I was only probably 36, 37. So I was ready in myself because I'd worked on a lot of townhouse projects as a carpenter, as a finishing carpenter, as a, sider and doing exterior. So I was very familiar with the routine. I had a really good base of contacts as it relates to vendors and subcontractors. So I think at some point, you've got to back yourself. Like at some point, I knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted to build a big contracting company at that stage. And then because I was optimistic and I would work hard, all of a sudden I would then get the opportunity to prove myself. So the harder I work, the luckier I get. And so, to know how you're ready, Jason, is really not my call. It's not my business. You've really got to follow your intuition and your gut, and knowing full well that you're never, ever going to build a business inside your comfort zone. So that's part of getting out of your comfort zone and backing yourself and then going, okay, I don't feel comfortable here, but being comfortable and being confident can be two separate things. You don't have to be comfortable to be confident. I was confident I was going to build, a large, franchise brand in North America. I was confident of that. Was it outside my comfort zone? Absolutely. You try calling general contractors and talk to them about a franchise idea. And mate, I've been hung up, plenty of times. But But you know what I did is I kept putting one foot in front of the other. So, I look, I hope that helps, Jace. There's no real surefire way of doing it. You've just got to back yourself and be ready to learn. Like, when are you ever ready to jump in the octagon, as an MMA fighter? You kind of go, well, I've never done it before. You're confident, but you're not comfortable. And I think that's the deal. Welcome, John. He's on the Gold Coast, and he is, happy birthday, mate. I think that's why he's on the Goldie. So anyway, let's keep up with these questions because now they're coming in thick and fast. I'll answer these as quickly as I can, as accurately as I can, but I've got to keep moving. So, Jace, I hope that helps, man.
Okay, John Blue asked, how would you suggest closing leads for big projects?
Right. Okay, let me just, if I'm going to close, I closed the deal for that $1.1 million job in 28 days from first phone call to the verbal go-ahead, acceptance, verbally on the phone at 9:30 on a Wednesday night. That is exactly how it happens. So what you've got to do is, okay, so what I would suggest, again, I can't give you specific detail because every one of us is different. All the clients are different. Everything is really a case-by-case basis. But what I'd tell you is this. Two things. One is you've got to go from the sales phase into the close phase, and you've got to be able to recognize when it's time to jump into the close phase. If you sit in the sales phase the whole time, the opportunity is going to die on the vine. It's never going to work out. And you go, Max, how does that happen? This is how it happens. You give people quotes and you never follow them up and ask for the business. That's what you've got to do. You've got to ask for the business. But sometimes you can go for close too early. So if you go and do one meeting, give them a quote, and then make a phone call 2 days later going, are you ready to go to contract? I'm not saying it can't happen, but I am saying that there needs to be about 8 to 12 touch points before you can ask for the business. Clients want to actually intuitively and subliminally and emotionally get to know you and understand how you roll before they're actually willing to commit with you. And this is why, going back to maybe our conversation we had last week about we get paid to quote, that actually, when they invest that money, and it's only a little bit of money, sometimes it's only $500, but when they invest that money, they're telling me that, Max, I trust you. What I've done is now taken them off the market. They're now dealing with me. And then what's going to happen now is that when we transact at a low level, it's very likely that we will then transact at a high level as long as our initial estimate is good and as long as they've actually grown to like us and they're not just going to take the information and go elsewhere because they think I'm a dick. That's what we don't want to happen.
You might also be interested in the how to quote a 500K reno podcast.
Now, there's a podcast, How to Quote a 500K Reno. That's out there as well, and that might go into more detail around how do you stage the sale, or how do you really set that process up? How do you go about asking for the business? How do you go about getting quotes or getting paid to quote? And then obviously RFQs, where I'm getting requests for quotations from my subs and suppliers. Now, just while I'm at it too, just guys, what I'd love you to do, these lives, these TikTok lives are being recorded as well. They're going to be on the Business for Builders YouTube page, and my team goes into explicit detail and they timestamp every one of these questions that I answer. So what you can do is use that as a catalog to go back and investigate anything that relates to you specifically. And right now, I'm about 15 questions behind. So go and visit the Business for Builders YouTube page. Everything under the TikTok lives is going to have the timestamp, so you can look at the question, click on the time, bang, you'll be straight into the question. What's the next one?
All right. Noel Jr. asked, on my 5th custom and 3rd spec home, still running on Excel and Word, what software do you recommend?
Dude, you are a ninja. Like, I would love to know what back costing you're doing. And, of course, yeah, I'd love to jam. Now, who was it, Joel? No.
Noel Jr.
Noel Jr., mate, you are, yeah, that's a great question. Good, let's cut to the chase. I use right now, we've got over 100 franchises in 3 different countries. They all use buildexact.ca. Where's the episode for Build Exact?
It is episode 75. I'm writing it down right now.
Episode 75, I talk all about Build Exact and how, all levels of that, all levels of that software, how we use that, how it interfaces and everything like that. So, Joel Jr., go and check that out, that episode. What number again? 50?
It's episode 75.
Episode 75. This is really tough for me to keep this balance. Okay, hope that helps. Let's go. Next one.
Okay, Mozzie asks,
yep.
Have you developed your own projects as opposed to just building for a developer?
Look, I was working retail what I did is I worked for general contractors my whole time, builders because he's an Aussie, right? I worked for builders my whole time. And then I got my builder's license. And then that was 2009. By July 2010, I was in with Smith & Sons. And so I'd only had my builder's license 12 months. I actually hadn't done my own projects. But to get into smithies, I had to have a builder's license, no matter what we did, whether it was a reno or a new build. And I just happened, and I'm telling you, this is the power of a home show. So if you got any queries about home shows, hit me up. But I literally was at a Smith & Sons home show at the Convention Centre in Brisbane, and I got talking to a prefab framing manufacturer, and he referred me to Grace Tang. And then I called Grace on Monday and I said, "Hey Grace, it's Max from Smith & Sons. I hear you're looking for a builder." That's how I got that project. So I wasn't looking for a developer. It just kind of dropped in my lap. And so, but at that point with Smithies, I was all over just doing, renos and kitchens and additions and decks and fences and all kinds of shit. So that's why I was always doing small projects. And I wasn't really looking for any massive. Matter of fact, I was comfortable doing little jobs because I wasn't quite ready to back myself. I was in the learning phase. I'm like, this is kind of like the Builder 101 onboarding stage. So I wasn't ready to sort of jump in. But I'd always used the marketing that we kind of did in Smith & Sons to work directly for homeowners. So yeah, did that answer the question? Hopefully it was close. Sorry about that, Mozzie. Hopefully I got a bit there, man. Remember, you can email me at max@businessforbuilders.ca, max@businessforbuilders.ca. Just hit me up in the subject line, TikTok, Q&A, whatever, and just give me one question. Don't write me a whole book, don't sort of send me a novel because I'm going to have so many to get back to. I do have so many to get back to, so I want to be able to punch an answer back to you pretty promptly. So hit me up on email as well.
All right. Jack asked, where do you start in marketing?
Jack's back. Where do you start? Look, I think, I'll tell you what it comes down to is what you're going to do is you want to formulate your marketing off the back of your business objectives. So what I would say to you is maybe go back, Jack, and have a look at I don't know how long you've been in business. I don't know where you're up to. I don't know what marketing you've done before. I don't know what you've done to educate yourself around, the marketing side of the business. I tell you what I got coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't know if you've ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk. Hit me up in the comments if you've heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, because I have got an awesome surprise for you guys, and we will go live on this. And I'm if you can get to it live, it'll be awesome. But I'm actually interviewing Gary Vaynerchuk's 2IC or his second in command or whatever. His name is Joe Quattrone, and he works for Sasha Group, which is a part of one of the VaynerMedia companies. And I am going to do we're going to do a video call, and I'm going to get him as a guest. Now, so going back to Jack's question about marketing, I'm going to be like Joe. I've got a bunch of general contractors who need to know about how we go about marketing our general contracting company. I can give you what's worked for me, but to have this guy on is a great resource. But Jack, it comes back down to what type of business are you running? So it's like, am I going to do renos? Am I going to do new? How much revenue do you want to do per year, right? And then based on the type of project, what's my preferred client profile? Thanks, Eagle Pro Painting. Nice work, Max. I appreciate the comment, bro. Appreciate the love. In other words, what I've got to do is, it's no point in saying, well, I've got a gun, Max. If marketing is our gun, I'm going to say, well, what are you shooting at? You really have got to define the end game, and then I can reverse engineer. And it's like, okay, like for me, and I'll be honest with you, for me, I don't do any Google AdWords for when I want to find general contractors to sell franchises to, because none of you GCs are getting on Google going, I want to buy a contractor or a general contractor franchise. You're just not doing it. See, so I know my target market, and I know where they're looking, and I know where they're not looking. So I'm not going to waste money on Google AdWords because my target customer is not looking to buy a franchise on Google AdWords. Facebook, however, is a different story. But when we go to retail, I don't know how much we probably spend 50 grand a year in the group on Google AdWords, not to mention how much we spend. We might spend probably 60 grand, 70 grand with Facebook, right? So there's Dan Booth. G'day, mate. I am having a great day, and I am looking forward to chatting with you. We are going to have the I Am Dan Booth on the podcast at some point. We just got to catch up for a call, Dano, and have a quick chat about what we are going to jam around, dude. So let's do it. Okay, next question. Go.
Jason asked, are there any courses for the business side of things besides Cert 4?
Right. Now, this Jason, I'm assuming, I don't know.
Jason Meredith.
Right. So I think there's all kinds of courses. I am telling you right now that YouTube is a great. It's there's plenty of shit there that you can learn. But as far as courses, I think any industry association. So here in Canada, we're part of the Canadian Home Builders Association. There's a lot of courses, and what you're talking about, the Cert 4 is something that you need as a credential to go for a builder's license. So on top of that, you're going to have a lot of fiscal compliance issues around, money, like monetary qualification as well. But if you're just wanting, I don't know, what are you laughing at?
Jacob said
Jacob Posma, how you doing, champ? So really what it comes down to is where you think you're lacking. And I love the fact that you're now diving into, I want to understand the financials. I'll tell you what I'm focusing on. Two parts that I focus on in my business with my guys. One is we want to look at the health of the business. So we always want to understand our liability. What money do I owe at any one time, particularly at the end of the month? And we do that with work in progress reports for the whole company. But then I want to double down even into a deeper fashion and go looking for, I want to do my cost engineering, back costing, analyzing each of the jobs individually. So I want to make sure that my actual spend against my budget spend in my estimate was on point. I want to know that I'm either under budget or on budget, and I certainly want to know if I've gone over budget. So when I jump on Google, I can go work in progress report. And another thing you might want to look for, and I'm telling you, work in progress accounting is going to turn you inside out. And that's really all about overbilling and underbilling and understanding the liability and your equity position in your company. And then to partner up with that, to go down even further, is how are we doing as far as project by project basis. So, I think that, right. We run the podcast every Tuesday. We're recording that live, and then we drop that every Thursday at 3:00 Pacific Standard Time. So, check us out there. And of course, all of those are on Business for Builders YouTube channel as well. So a lot of these questions I'm getting asked. Hopefully that one answered your question, Jace, about, what can you do? I don't think there's any specific course. If we're in different countries, just start with the industry associations. That's always a good place to kick off. And they're all very happy to help. They're about education, right? And I'm glad you guys are as well. Next question.
All right. It's Dan Booth asked, how and when do you get into the building industry? Any unusual advice for long-term success?
How you get into the building industry? My story is that I finished school in grade 11 and I think I was 16, and the old man took me out of private school education because I was such a shithead student. I spent more time fighting than actually learning. And then he threw me into trade college, which is like a technical college, and I was doing, a mixture of construction and engineering. So one time I was playing with wood, another time I was playing with steel and welding and shit.
Oh, sorry. He just corrected his question. How did you get into the building industry?
Well, I was already answering it anyway. Yeah. So like I said, I got into this trade, into this technical college where we were doing construction and engineering, and I was definitely more of a woodworker. Although I had an uncle who was kind of into that. He was what we call a boiler maker. I don't know millwright maybe is what you call it here, fitter and turner. And, but then, as luck, totally luck was having it. I was over a friend's house and she mentioned that I've got a brother-in-law that's looking for an apprentice carpenter. This is Sunday night. And Louise said to me, do you want me to give him a call? And I'm like, hell yeah, get me out of this classroom. I didn't mind tech college, but get me onto a building site where I can make money. And so I spoke to Phil Sunday night. See, this is right back then. I'm like, yes, call him. And she said, do you want to speak to him? And I'm like, yes, I want to speak to him. And Phil's like, and this is typical of my old boss, when can you start? I was like, anytime. He said, can you be there tomorrow? And he said, I'll pick you up at the bakery at 6:00. And he was 45 minutes late. But he did buy me a meat pie. So that was okay. And then really, I went back to tech college on the Tuesday, pulled my shit out of the locker, said, I'm out of here, I got a job, and I was back on site on Wednesday, and the rest is history, and here I am. So that's dead set how I got into it. So, each to his own. Hope that we can use that. We'll tell that story again in the podcast, Dan. I'll ask you the same question, actually. What's up? What's the next one?
Did you cover the unusual advice for long-term success?
Unusual advice. Just keep, get up one more time than you fall down. And the more you learn, the more you earn. And it's not about what you're going through, it's where you're going to. And you become like the people you hang with. What else can I say? I don't know that it's terribly unusual. I tell you what it is to know and not to do is not to know. So to get advice from, let's say, journeymen or guys that have gone before you, and then, and I've got nothing against playing video games and watching Netflix. Like, I don't play video games, but I watch my fair share of Netflix. It's whatever makes you happy. Don't sit there watching 4 hours of Netflix of a night time instead of watching educational videos on YouTube about building a general contracting company, and then go to work tomorrow and bitch about how there's lack of opportunity. Kiss my ass. Like, this is why I'm saying you've got to be real with yourself. Look in the mirror, because sometimes the problem that you're facing is looking at you in the mirror every time you brush your teeth. So be honest with yourself, right? That would be the unusual advice I would give. Next.
Mozzie asked, what has been your most enjoyable / interesting project you built?
Look, I really loved that biggest project, because to me, that was me turning gangster. It's like, right, I get my teeth into a five. Now, dude, you talk about losing sleep for real. Thanks to Sam, he's given me a bit of daps. Sam, I'm gonna cock up your last name, bro. Fessel. Thanks for the love. But yeah, that biggest project, that was my moment. Like, I'm like, yeah, I've arrived. But the funny thing was, I had a guy working for me as an estimator. His dad was a builder, and I pulled Jace in because he worked for me. We did years and years of framing, and a whole bunch of work together. And so it made sense for Jace to come on and help me as an estimator. And no sooner had we got the go-ahead, he was with me at 9:30 on a Wednesday night, and no sooner had we got that job, we looked at each other the next day and went, oh shit, now we've got to build it. And I'm telling you guys, it's like, dude, it's all Hollywood bullshit. I'm telling you. And then we started building towards the end of the year, and over the Christmas break in Australia, it pissed down with rain, and that site was just an absolute quagmire. And I had issues with painters who only had like 48 microns of paint on all of the exterior surfaces, and I argued with him, and it went to lawyers. Like, oh my God, like. So, but I still love the process, because we could actually probably do a bit of a thing and put some photos up of the before and after shots, and it looks immaculate. Matter of fact, when I get my general contractors through training here at head office, new guys and gals that I on board, I actually I do a bit of a get to know Max slide, because they only know me as this, right? Like this Muppet wearing a friggin', collared shirt and shit. And there's no real exposure, but I go through that. I go through a little bit of my experience and some of my credentials and all that sort of jazz. And I got these photos of this finished product. And, we take this house that would have been like, it was a Queenslander actually for all the Queenslanders. We bulldozed that and, got abatement and all that sort of shit. And then we rebuilt these 5 townhouses, and it looks cat's pajamas. But yeah, there's no question that is by far the greatest standout. It was definitely my, that was my homecoming. It was really awesome. In my backyard too. It was great. Next question. Shit.
Jack asked, what type of marketing do you use or used to use?
Righto, Jack. So look, I guess this would have been Jack from the last time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So let me try and be a bit more specific. So this is the concept. So what we do is, and do I apply this? Let's talk retail, because I'm assuming, Jack, you're a general contractor. What we do is we do a shit ton of social, and I'll always talk about this no matter what marketing I'm doing, where what I want to do is I want to give value, and then I want to ask for the business, right? So it's not like I'm just trying to convince people, because it's like, okay, hang on, let me say this again. I want to give value. I want to ask for the business, but there's no expectation. That's why I say ask for the business, because I can still get told to jam it up my ass and move on, right? So what we've got to do is we've actually got to, we've got to focus on how do we give value. So what we do is on our socials is we like to do stuff that's educational, stuff that is informative, and stuff that's entertaining. I know this for a fact. If I was to ask Jill, who's on the other side of the camera here, what is the most impactful pieces of content? The before and afters are killer.
Video testimonials.
And the video testimonials, funny enough, right? So if I would say to you, what you need is good before and afters, that means look, the cameras on the phones right now are really cool. You need to make sure that there's good lighting and that you're taking the photo from the same position. Don't take the picture of a kitchen area where you're going to just blow the kitchen area up and put a couple of windows and some French doors and put the kitchen back, and you take it from one side of the room and then you go to the other side of the room. People love this. They like to see the before and the after, exactly where the photo's taken from, exactly the same position every time, right? And then, of course, if you've got clients, there's Nutsack, the mullet man. Yeah, baby. And then, of course, video testimonials from clients. Jack, if you've done work for clients in the past, what you always try and do from the beginning of the sales process, from the first phone call, and if your marketing's good from before the first phone call, my objective as a builder is to turn those clients into raving fans, right? And so that at the end of the project, when we're all clinking beers and life's, awesome and what a great project and I'm so in love with my new house, we can easily go, look, do you think that you're able to help some other people who are considering working with Smith & Sons? Do you think you could help them out by sharing your experience? And look, that's what I would say. So you've got to have a lot of stuff going on in social that pushes back to your website. Now, I do a lot of podcasts for my recruitment, like B4B, Business for Builders. I'm talking to builders like you guys all the time. My podcast for retail is just flat as a pancake. It's dead as a maggot. It's really not working. Because why? They don't really get juiced up by listening to me flapping my gums about anything construction. Now, you go back across to video, different ball game. Like, our video presence is super strong. We've got a great couple of content creators, and so we put out some really good, entertaining, informative, educational type video all across the board. So that's what I would say. Make sure you got good clients with video testimonial. You're doing a lot of stuff on your socials that push back, and you've got to add value. You've got to demonstrate why they are going to choose you over somebody else, which means you've got to separate yourself from the pack. You can't be just another tree in the forest. I hope that helps you, Jack. Let's go. Next question.
Well, just Nutsack said, I would hire you hands down, brother. Keep up the good work.
Jack just said that? Thank you, Jack.
No, that was Nutsack.
Oh, Nutsack. Nutsack and Jack. I'm really getting confused. I'm a pretty simple guy, but I appreciate it, Nutsack. Awesome. What else you got?
Okay, Jim Jam asked,
Jim Jam, that's good.
As a 30-year-old qualified carpenter and landscaper, what do I need before going out on my own successfully?
Jim Jam? Cool name. Look, dude, I think what you got to do is you got to back yourself. Like, there's a point where you have to exit the aeroplane if you're going to open up your parachute and you're going to enjoy the view. That's what I would say. A lot of the time, we're building the aeroplane as we go down the runway, okay? So, look, I think you've got some really good credentials, being a qualified carpenter and a landscaper. I love landscaper, man. Like, I don't know about landscaping in this country, but it's got to be similar. But, I used to love, like, everything, irrigation, prepping yards, doing retaining walls, planting, doing, mulch, even prepping driveways, pouring driveways. I used to love that. So, look, I think you've got a really good understanding of construction, and of course you can add some massive value, because when people want additions, what do we do when we build an addition? We completely mess their shit up, which means they've then got to go and get a landscaper to fix it. So you're in a good position. Not knowing your Jim Jam, I would back you. I think you got the chops. The only thing what I would say is what I talked about before was about business, and knowing about how to monitor your business. How do I get to know the numbers in my business? Things like understanding what your fixed expenses are. What sort of markups am I going to apply to my materials and my labor? Am I going to run fixed price, or don't want to go there yet and I just want to do cost plus? Look, I think, what I would say is stay close. And I am not, I'm really just got started with this whole online thing. I've been building shit for over 30 years. But, transferring that data from my head, my heart to an audience, that's totally brand new. I mean, this podcast the podcast that we do is only, 12 months old, Jill? Or is it 18 months? I think it's 18 months old now. Yeah, it'll be 2 years in October. So I'm brand new to this, but I'm doing everything I can to really, help out guys. So what I would say is I'm still learning. I'm developing a business that consists of, really mentoring and coaching general contractors in real time. And I am always working super hard on myself to ensure that I can be always one step ahead of my general contractors, because the speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. And even if you guys never talk to me about buying a franchise, I'm going to tell you everything pretty much, give or take, unless it's super proprietary information. But for the most part, I can share with you a lot about what we do, because really the magic in what we do is the marketing and branding. So branding is one thing. So the Smith & Sons brand international, and the marketing and how we go about lead generation. And then, of course, there's the mentoring, which is the one-on-one situation that I really have with my guys. That's really what we can do. So don't forget, the YouTube channel with the TikTok lives. That's really a great place to get the education, especially with all those timestamps. All right, next one. Let's go.
Okay, Apple user asked, advice on getting familiar with estimating for new construction.
Okay, all right. I would love to know
Apple
user's background, because if you say, oh, well, I'm a carpenter by trade, I'd love to know if you are, how long you've been in the game. For me as an old boy, I could probably go back to Queensland and hit the estimator's seat and start over, because the building methods here are different to what's overseas, right? But it's like, after being in it for so long and being around it, I would say, here's what I would do. We promoted Build Exact already. They do a lot of, if you go, they put out some webinars and things like that where they help you with the estimating side of it. And so there's some opportunity, there as well that you might be able to learn. But if you just go in, if I was you right now, I'd go estimating and quoting. That's straight into YouTube. And that's going to be, and what I would say is take everything with a pinch of salt, including the advice that I give you. Take it with a pinch of salt and then go and qualify it elsewhere. And if you can find 3 or 4 sources that are kind of all jamming around the same principles and the same bits and pieces, then it really does start to tell you that, okay, there's an element of reliability, but then also some of that information, it might be above your head and you're yet to grow into it. So it's like, okay, it's actually more technical than I realize. So I'm going to keep, operating as a subcontract carpenter until I'm going to go around again. Like I did, it took me three times to get my builder's license, because I was intimidated by the application and the night schooling, because I knew I wasn't a good student. I knew I could kick ass on the building site, but I wasn't your academic guy. So that's the advice I'd give you.
Jim Jam and Jack just recently gave some love, so maybe just give him a little
sweet as Jim Jam. Oh yeah, there's Jack.
Jack said he's keeping up with the podcast.
I'm at a boy, Jack. Look, and guys, if you've got something that you want me to speak to, then I can do that. I'd love to be able to sort of go, instead of banging on about what I think's relevant, to really get some of my audience to chime in and go, Max, if estimating and quoting, because I want to keep it fresh. I don't want to keep, every second week I'm talking about estimating and the power of Build Exact and all this horse shit. Look, if marketing is a big deal, I'm not a gun marketer. I've got people around me that I use, but I kind of understand the concept. But yeah, hit me up. Like really, I don't care where you stick it. Put it in Q&A, stick it on an email, max@businessforbuilders.ca, and I'll give that to my team. And I'm like, right, this week we want to talk about XYZ because this is what we're getting asked a lot about. So hope that helps.
Okay, Harry asked, name's Harry, I'm 20 and halfway through my electrical apprenticeship. I still feel behind.
Yeah, look, okay, Harry, look, I don't, what was he, second year?
Halfway.
Okay, let's say it's 2 years. Dude, I completely understand this, because I remember, as much as I love being on site, I was like the dumbest spud. Like, there's some shit. I remember, here's a story for you. Sorry, what was his name again?
That was Harry.
Harry, I remember this, right? I was brand new to carpentry second fix, and I was probably in my first 6 months, to be honest, and I cut all the low story trim around the windows back to front. Now, that's me being honest with you, right? That's how stupid I was. I had no concept at which way the trim, did it go this way? Do I cut the miter that way, or do I cut the miter this way? I thought I knew, so I just just banging on, cutting shit. And I think I might have shared in the last the last live that I actually one stage got fired, as a carpenter, because I got told to tighten up some tie down rods, and I forgot to do it, and it failed a frame inspection. And my boss said, if you forget to do that, you're fired. So he fired me, and then the other guy said, look, come back in a couple of days and it'll be fine, which I did. And I didn't lose my job. It was just, Phil putting the wind up me. So look, if you feel like you're behind, just what you can do, all you can do is all you can do. As long as you feel like you're doing everything, do not make excuses. Do not play the blame game. Don't compare yourself with other people. Don't do it. Don't do it, Harry. Harry, wasn't it? Please tell me I got that right. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't compare yourself. What I want you to do is run your race and be as diligent as you can. Now, I had kids that are fairly athletic and what I would regard as reasonably talented soccer players and football players, but I warn them. I say, there's a kid out there who's not as talented as you, who will outwork you and who will outshine you on the field. So what I want you to do is if you've got talent, you've got to work just as hard because there's a kid out there that wants it more and is going to work harder. Harry, I would encourage you, mate. You're good enough. You just need to put in the work. You need to maybe work harder than the guy who's got natural talent, but I'm telling you, it can be done. So keep chasing your dream, bro. That's what I'm really, keep chasing. Go ahead, next one.
Jacob Postma asked, is there an accurate pricing guideline that you use to stay competitive?
Shit, what's that contractor's guide? Off the top of my head. What is that pricing guide that we give our guys when we start? I could send one of you guys on a run. Jacob, there is one. There is one. When I go onto YouTube channel, it won't let me scroll past a few videos.
On it.
You on it?
I'm already messaging.
Okay, we're getting that sorted. Jacob, appreciate the feedback. Contractor's pricing guide. Shara, can you run into the conference room? There's a blue book there that's got contractor's guide. Can you please grab it for me? I know you might miss some questions, but I need to get this one because this is going to help everybody. It's next to where my laptop was this afternoon. Or I could run and get it. You know what? Let's come back to that.
And he also said he can email if you'd prefer.
Yeah, look, but I want to bring this. This is a great question, and it's a super basic thing. Now, I've had this tried and tested. That's the one. Perfect. Thank you. Right.
He said he feels bad now. He shouldn't.
No.
You're happy to do this.
Not at all. Now, this is 2020. This is my copy, right? Well, actually, it hasn't got corporate copy on it. So that's it. Oh, he's watching me live. We can do this. Show this to the other camera.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Right, contractor's pricing guide. I give one of these away. I think they're worth about $65, right? Contractor's pricing guide, residential repair. So it's a remodeling. There's a new home one, which is worth like $250. But if you look that up, and it is, well, that says Gordian, right? That's the one. Contractors, RS Means. That's the company I was trying to think of. If you guys go and look out for that, we could actually probably put a link to where I go buy that shit for them. And what that's got, and you can't see shit, but there's a whole list of all the different aspects of construction, and you can actually use that. And it's got a location factor. So it's a US made thing, but if you multiply all the costs by a factor of 1.05, which essentially means it's dollar for dollar almost, that can help you. My guy Nanaimo, he said, I've been looking for that for so long, and he finds it fairly accurate 90% of the time. So hope that helps, Jacob.
Mozzie asked, do you still throw the nail bag on every now and then?
The only reason I throw a bag on is when we want to video some shit just for kicks and giggles. Mate, when we were down at that carriage house, that's over 12 months ago now, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, when I first come to town, I had to freaking just do it, right? I had to go and, earn my keep here and get, cut my teeth and all that sort of shit. So I've got a 12 by 6 by 6 enclosed trailer at home, and it's got a full load of tools. I could go and start framing. I don't want to do that. But no, as far as putting the sack on and going out there, if I know that I built the wife a veggie patch, and we put it together with pallets and pressure treated or CCA posts, and put up a bunch of because we got deer where we live because we're living on 30 acres and she wanted to keep the deer out, and that's what you get over here. You don't get kangaroos, Aussies. You get bloody deer that come and eat your shit. And anyway, so yeah, I had the bag on for that, mate, but I don't do anything commercially. No, I'm busy doubling down on the business side of my general contractors. I kind of work as their proxy CFO or chief financial officer, and then I work as a proxy sales manager just to look after, how are we doing for leads, what prospective sales are we going to complete this month, all that sort of stuff. So kind of a general manager for my GCs. And at some point, I will be getting someone in to operate as a full-blown business coach for my guys, because it's going to become fairly overwhelming for me to keep up and deliver service at the highest level. So, yeah, I hope that answers it for you.
The Forest and I asked, how do you get to know your numbers better than your trade?
The Forest and I, thanks for the question.
He's been in our lives before too, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Look, how do you get to know the numbers better than your trade? I don't know that you do, although I do find subcontractors to be notoriously lazy. Only 1 in 100 guys are absolute ninjas as far as pricing goes. I would want to be, this is what I would say, I would want to have a black belt understanding of every trade that I need to engage, in any project. So I've got to be able to talk fluent plumber. I've got to be able to talk fluent electrician, fluent concreter, foundation guys. So, that's, what was the question again?
How do you get to know your numbers better than your trade?
Time. And this is why I say fail forward, because, like I told this story about, I did an elevator job where I took out an interior set of stairs because my guys wouldn't drive 45 minutes up the road. So that's probably one of the major times I had my nail bag on. And in 3 weeks, I took out the interior stairs, got the elevator installed, reinstated the flooring, did that. But, my electrician's like, oh, that'll be about $1,500 or something I quoted. I allowed $3,500 and then he hits me up with a bill for $2,700. Like, I just knew in my gut. I couldn't give you any categoric reason. I'm just going, that's too cheap, you knucklehead. I didn't tell him that because I wanted to give him a hard time, but I knew what I allowed. So it's in time, and it's by asking a lot of questions. I'm a big data gatherer. Like, I steal with my eyes and my ears all the time because it's just, if you went to my desk right now, I'm really doubling down on tweaking the, the work in progress and, obviously cost engineering, cost analysis of each project, back costing. And so my office is just full of paperwork on what I want to do is gather all of this information and compile it to make sure that it's very competent and coherent and that it suits me and my business. I'm a really good student of the industry. That's what I would say. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, fellas. That's guys and girls. You can go there now especially on the TikTok lives. You've got those, you've got the timestamps. If I've just answered a question about software, roll down, look for it. If it's there, click on the time, and you will, it'll explain whatever we're talking about in regards to whatever you're looking for. So, next question.
User asked, how do you start getting tradesmen to come work for you as a starter?
Okay, great. Look, yeah, good question. User, I haven't got a real name. But anyway, I talked about this as well. One of my first jobs was about a $45,000 job where I reconfigured an ensuite and a main bedroom, and also then renovated a bathroom. And I pretty much did a lot of the work outside of the plumbers, electricals, tile setting, waterproofing. Like and remember what I said at the start. If you weren't here, I was in I was in the townhouse game for a long time. So I had a great network of trades. Whereas if you, just like I did, come to this town brand new, you got to start networking. There's no way of fast tracking that shit. You've just got to go out. And I was always seem to be, I wouldn't say I'm a social butterfly, but I go out of my way to meet people. I stop in where it's not convenient. I want to shake hands. I'll make phone calls to people that I like on email because I believe in doing that. And then I'd love to catch up for a beer and just shoot the shit like this. I think you've got to be a networker. And I think I talked about my guy in Victoria on Vancouver Island. I've got a quick question there. I'm going to divert. Alec Weir Miller, mate. I'm not based. I'm in the Okanagan Valley. I'm in British Columbia in Canada, bro. See the Canadian flag right there? That's that's Canadian product in Canada. So I'm in British Columbia. Sorry to disappoint. I hope that's okay. But yeah, networking is a really big deal. I think what I'm trying to do by networking is not just get people to come work for me. What I'm trying to do is get to the right people to come work for me. So I've got to get to know. There's a lot of chemistry involved, right? So, it's about, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. I want to get to know, like, and trust the subs because I rely on my sub trades to do a cranking kick-ass job to make me look good. And, of course, usually I'm going to have to pay them a little bit more money for their great service. That's what I would say. Next.
So we got a question from Michael, and I think it was from the question before your last about how to get to know your numbers better than your trade. Now, he asked, should I know all that before I go out by myself?
Look, mate, you really can't. Look, I think, another piece of advice is you're going to have to fall. Now, again, it's tough for me to just speculate outside of where I came from. And so I've got to put myself in your boots. Because I knew that I could ring Frankie the electrician. I could ring Brian the waterproofer. Like, I had a really great list of guys that I would knock around with on job sites that weren't working for me. I just happened to, bump into them and talk to them about their scope of work and all that sort of shit. But, I really think that you've got to go cap in hand and go, look, I'm just tell the truth. I'm starting out Is there a price list that you can give me? And the other thing you want to understand too is how long do things take? What sort of lead time before I can actually get access to that trade? When, if I say, hey, I'm going to need you on a job, how much notice do you kind of need? Those sorts of things are a big part of not just price. And please don't go looking for the cheapest. Okay, so this is what I'd say. You need to not compete on price with your clients, because then what that means is if you're getting ground by clients, that means you've got to grind your sub trades, which means now you're going to have to select maybe the less than, pleasing sub trades. That's going to affect your business. That's why competing on price with clients is a race to the bottom. You go down and down and down, and then you wonder why your business is shit and your clients are idiots and you're freaking hating your sub trades, because it all started from your mental understanding of how you're going to build this business. What I would say is, now, if you're just starting, of course you're going to want to please, and you're desperate to get work, so you're going to kind of drive your own price down. If you're going to do that, that's called buying the work, just by the way. If you're going to buy the work, understand that you're going to make very little money, but over time, hopefully you can build a reputation up to a point where now you can charge what you feel you're worth. This is why I talk about when we charge to do quotes. You can't just say that to a client. They're going to go, okay, I'll pay you to do a quote. You've got to demonstrate value, and that definitely takes a bit of time. So, getting started, it's like anything. It's like out of the gates is always going to be the hardest, but understand that, what you're going through is not where you're going to. Your goal is not to do business this month and then that's it. Your goal is to develop a business over a period of 2 to 5 years. I would dead set give yourself 2 to 5 years. If you can make it past 5 years and you've developed a very profitable business, you've outmaneuvered the failure rate that is about 73% of all general contracting companies that start don't make it past 5 years. It's a really sad statistic. And I'm telling you right now, the other sad statistic is that there's a suicide in the construction business every week, which is another sad statistic. So guys and girls, if you're having a moment, you're not happy with yourself, you got to reach out. I don't care if you hit me up on email or you hit me up on a DM. Don't go hurting yourself, because business is not worth it. Applying a very permanent solution, to a temporary problem is not the answer. So that's just another pitch. I want you to talk to me. Come and talk to me, and you'll get my attention ASAP. And there's a whole bunch of people out there that can help you. You don't need to go ahead and hurt yourself like that. Anyway, hopefully that answers Harry's question, or Jack's.
So now Disco Boy chimed in and he said, I've had some awful subs, had a cheap joiner do skirting and architraves, and it was full of gaps.
Yeah, right. Disco Boy's our Aussie. He's our Aussie champion. Look, I don't think, if the joiner was a carpenter joiner, I had carpentry and joinery credentials. Normally, if you're a cabinet maker, your eye for detail is a lot better. Unfortunately, that individual probably didn't have someone that demonstrated installation, and it's interesting because he called it skirting and arcs. If you're in North America, skirting is baseboard, architraves are trim around doors and windows. I didn't know I was an interpreter. But, if it was full of gaps, if the miters were shit house and it was off the wall and it wasn't, if the miters on the door architraves weren't glued and pinned and shit like that, it's going to be a problem for the painter, which means Disco Boy, you're going to fire his ass, you're going to withhold some payment, you're hopefully going to be able to back charge him and go back in there and do it properly. Hopefully that doesn't include ripping off a bunch of material and going around again. But, that's why if you're focused on getting the cheapest subcontractor, you're going to get bitten in the ass and you're going to end up with a lot of work to do. And I will tell you, when I talked about my experience with a painter, how he only put on 48 microns of paint, and I had to go, you know why I had that issue? And he was a buddy of my father-in-law's. But that guy was the cheapest, and that's why I hired him. Big mistake. And it cost me $5,000 for legal fees, and I had to pay the guy anyway. He had to come back and repaint. We negotiated a deal. He had to put another coat of paint over it. But I'm telling you, it was because I went for the cheapest subcontractor. So if you know it's not good news to go for the cheapest subcontractor, you can't afford to get driven down by the client if you know what you're worth. But that's the trick too. You've got to know what different aspects, and to that point, that question about how do I get to know what my subcontractors' rates are? Yeah, it's dangerous. You're going to find yourself maybe losing some money on jobs, but it's certainly going to teach you a good lesson. Go ahead, next question.
DT asked, paint before or after floor?
That is the question, DT. Chicken or the egg? For years and years and years, and I say years because I'm a bit of an older chap, we used to go in and just smash out baseboards. Did he say baseboards or did he say skirting?
He just said paint before or after floor.
Paint before or after, right. I've seen it done both ways, and both parties are pissed, so there's no pleasing anybody. But I think lately what I see is that, floors would definitely go in after paint for obvious reasons, right? But then you've got, in this office right here, I'm in Canada, right? What we did is we got the most of the trim and most of the trim done, all the doors hung, et cetera, trim around the windows, no baseboard down. We got the place painted. They primed to put one coat of trim on the baseboard, which is a skirting, and then we put the floor down, and then we installed the baseboard over the floor. So we painted the thing out first, put the baseboard down, which had one coat on, and then the painter came back in, and after I nailed it up, he then corked it up and then touched up the bullet holes where the nails were, and that was it. So, yeah, who made a Aussie, Jared, a better finish is floor first. Before paint, see? Look, I ain't getting into that shit. That is not what I'm paid to do. So let's go. Next question. I'll get into
Aussie Jared actually had a question. How big should you be before getting an apprentice?
I mean, there's a philosophy around the reason why, we talk about struggling to get good trades. In our like let's say carpenters, right? So I did an apprenticeship as a carpenter. I think the reason that we bring on apprentices is because it is cheaper labor, but the other benefit is that you're basically growing in-house. And, like for me, I worked for my boss for a couple of years after, but I was always very hungry for success and wanted to get out and do my own thing. So I didn't stick around long. But ironically enough, I would go back and subcontract for him, and I always delivered at the level that he trained me to do. So at some level, it was a worthy investment. But I understand this, if you are going to recruit, and this is to your question, you're always going to kind of lose money. Like when apprentices go and cut trim the wrong way around because he's a dumbass, that was me. There's going to be it's going to cost you a little bit. But I think once it's ironic because that was, like, say I was 6 months into my time. By the time I was a third year, I was good enough to go framing on subcontract, which was completely illegal even back in 1992. I was subcontracting at 70-30 split with Rhino. Mark Ryan was the guy that I was on frames with then, and we did a couple of frames together. So I don't know that there's a specific time. It really does depend on the business. I know that if I was a renovator builder and I just did renos, you've got a lot of demolition, you've got a lot of, humping rubbish and garbage out of jobs. There's a bit of shit work to be done. There's not a lot of framing. So if you're going to teach your young carpenter how to frame, if he cocks it up because you went away for a couple of hours and came back, mind you, it's not legal to leave an apprentice on site, note to self. I think there's some advantages there, but certainly for me, oh shit, dude, when I was an apprentice, I was like, my best friend was the broom for the first 12 months, Philip, because he used to do a shit ton of houses and townhouses and shit. Here's your broom. And I'm like, oh, seriously? Sweeping shit downstairs was just like, it was harsh. So look, it depends on your business there, man. I don't know when the right time is for you and your business, but I know this. It's going to cost you two years of hard labor because it's going to be your frustration. But out the back of the third and the fourth year, that's really where you get good ROI on apprentice. So hope that helps, man. That might have been a bit vague. Anyway, next.
User asked, another user said, "What's up, gangster?"
What's up? He heard the gangster video. Yeah, like
probably.
I was talking about, 25-year-old gangster GCs. So, don't take the wrong way. But, I love the fact that these guys and girls are wanting to kick ass and take names, but I don't want to be unrealistic either. So what I want to do is give you some context, and it's an old dog giving the young dog some, heads up. But, that's about it. Yeah.
He sure did watch it.
Sweet as a nut.
And Aussie Jared says thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome, Aussie Jared. What's next?
A different user said, for someone who wants to be a multiple tradesman, what trades do you recommend starting first?
Oh, look, I would say that this user's a fairly youngster. Mate, I don't look from my position. I was flat out learning how to be a carpenter for the first 2 years to remember the shit that we, it was just through repetition that was doing it over and over again. And look, where I come from, apprenticeships are 4 years. So it means if you're going to go and do a plumbing and electrical apprenticeship, then, you're up for what, 4, 8, 12 years. Like, I don't know if you want to do that. So, what would I recommend? I wouldn't recommend being a concrete apprentice. That shit's got whiskers on it. That's hard work. That's a young man's game as well. I think if you've got the technical expertise, technology, then obviously electrical is a good place to start. But and then plumbing is pretty good as well. But you're going to burn up 12 years of your life if you're going to do carpentry, electrical, and plumbing. That's probably what I'd go for. Drywall's kind of something. I don't want to downplay the drywalls. I don't get friggin' slayed by drywallers. I saw that with my in-laws doing that, and I sort of picked that up on the fly. So that's what I'd recommend. Carpentry, electrical, plumbing.
I'm in my first of my 4 years as an electrical apprentice.
Right, in my first of my 4 years. Righto, so your year one is electrical. What I would do is I would reserve my I would keep looking. I'm not going to say you can't do it. You could be the friggin' most awesomest ninja apprentice in the world, right? But I would say, once you get 3 years as an electrician, you're going to be really doubling down. You're going to be buying tools. You're going to be thinking about a van. You're going to be going, I might even start my own electrical business. I'm not sure that you're going to want to go around. Let's say you started your apprenticeship as a 16-year-old. Once you hit the back end of a 4-year apprenticeship, you're going to be 20. You're going to be wanting to make more money. I don't think you're going to go back and work as a first-year plumber on first-year wages. That's what I think is going to change your view of the whole deal. Electrical's a nightmare. All right, what's the next question? Let's go.
Henny asked, how old is too old to try to start an apprenticeship?
What was the name? Henny?
Henny.
Look, I just think it comes down to if you're 24 years old living with your mum and dad and you know you can be there for another 4 years, just go and get the frigging credential and live on, not very much money because it's worth it. So I'm not sure. I mean, they do mature-based apprenticeship. Was that the user? Was that the same user? Mature-based apprenticeships are doable. Matter of fact, I know a guy in this town, and I'm in Canada. He's another Aussie, and I hooked up. I caught up with Paul, and we kicked the footy and shit. But he started an apprenticeship doing his tech college, like what do they call it here? Anyway, doing their schooling, and I'm sure he was 42, 43. And I actually went, mate, like for you to go, and it was all about. He's got a wife and a kid at 42 years of age. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how you're going to survive, but his missus worked, right? So there you go. I know a guy right now in this town at 42 years of age, and he's finished his time. He's got his credentials now. So, look, 42. There's a number I can give you that it can be done. Next question.
Christian asked, are business cards still good or any other way to promote? He's a painting contractor.
Look, I think business cards, I mean, we are up to our eyeballs in digital. You can go anywhere, businessforbuilders.ca. We're across all of the platforms. Go to smithandsons.ca. We're across all of the platforms. All of my guys have, got their spot on the website. We're big on digital, but we still wrap vehicles, and yes, we still do business cards. Now, if I had one of my business cards, the thing with business cards is you got your normal, I don't even know how big they are, 2-inch by, 3 inches, whatever they are. Ours go and grab one. Ours are a lot narrower, than most. So I still think business cards work, but I mean, I've had 500 business cards now for 3.5 years or whatever it is, 4 years. And so it really does. It really, don't get, that's a good one. So this is not a technical, if I had another business card right beside us, I'll show you the other YouTube. There you go. And now I'm talking into the mic a bit, like the other one. So we've got these nice bullnose corners on them. That's for all the Aussies. That's what we call it. And then, of course, there's, so it just stands. So every time I've given out this card, they're like, oh, it's, got artwork, not cheap. Like you go to Vistaprint, you can get that shit for not this type of card, but you can get business cards made up for a third of what we pay. But every time I give these out, people go, oh, the wow factor, right, guys? So, yes, I would say that we haven't stopped producing it. It's part of our, our startup pack for our franchise general contractors. But there is a point of difference even in my business cards. Boom. Next.
Jack asked, how well is a handyman/finishing handyman to site foreman type career?
How well? In other words, what's the quality of the outcome? Or so how well is a handyman finishing handyman to site foreman? Are you talking about going from a handyman, Jack, to a site foreman? Now that question is gone, so I can't see it no more.
He said, yeah. How well is a handyman / finishing handyman to site foreman type career?
Look, I think a site foreman, I mean, look, if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be running my own building company pretty much in doing what I'm doing. But look, if I decided, you know what, I don't want to be in business for myself right now, I could easily go and double down and be a project manager, no problem at all. Going from a because of my background, right, because of my experience and what I do and what I understand, going from a handyman where your exposure to, for want of a better term, don't take this personally, but, you know, for the lack of exposure to larger projects, maybe you'll have a challenge. But like I said, the 42-year-old guy, Aussie guy here in this town who wanted to go and be an apprentice carpenter, I thought he was out of his mind, but he's getting into it. You know, he's making it work. So it really comes down to the individual. What are you laughing at, Jill? The
turd dangler's back.
The turd dangler. Giddy up.
He said project managing with a mullet.
Yep, totally. You never forget anybody with a mullet. It's gangster. Who was I watching? There was some other shit I was watching. There's some Aussies with some awesome mullets, which really inspire me to keep on going. So next question. Let's go. Hope that helps.
Clancy asked, how important is it to have contracts for jobs under 30 grand?
100%. Wouldn't do it without it. Not even going to move. Don't want your money. I don't want no handshakes. I don't want no checks. I'm going to show you my building contract. I don't care if it's a 1 or 2 page. Actually, my builder subcontract agreement, so the agreements that I would have with the subcontractors in the room, that is a 2-page document. This is what we're going to fill out, and on the back it's all the T's and C's written in font about that frigging small, right? But there's some, there's back charge policy and all kinds of shit. That's what I do with my subcontractors. If you don't fill that out, you're down the road. I'll get somebody else. But with clients, mate, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. For a $3,000 fence, I would be going for a service agreement. Now, would it be a 13-page service agreement like we've got for our bigger projects? No. Would I have something that's a little less? Absolutely. Why? Because the risk is not as big. If I've got a $500,000 project, yeah, I'm going to want some, reassurance that you're going to pay your bills. So, yes, I would. That's the answer to that question. Next.
Well, Manuel chimed in and said, that's what I do. Just have to make the most of big project payouts and put that money to work.
Yeah, look, I think you've just got to really protect your six. You've got to understand. I have never had a bad first meeting. It's always been happy days and everyone's back slapping and happy. It's awesome. Where does a shit fight occur? Either halfway through or right at the back end on the last payment. And that's when when you're getting kicked in the ass by a client financially, you'd want to know your shit and you'd want to have it buttoned up tight. That's why all of my general contractors use the 13-page building contract that my corporate lawyer drew up, because I went to him, I said, Patrick, this has got to be as waterproof, as dustproof, as bulletproof as we can make it within reason, because I don't want any of my guys getting taken down by a client who's just being a dick. Next question. Hope that helps, Clancy.
JP Painters asks, ideas to get leads / jobs other than general advertising?
Righto, JP. I'm assuming that you'll go. I'll assume that you're painting for retail customers and actually, homeowners, because obviously, if you are working mostly for general contractors as a subcontract carpenter in my neck of the woods, I mean, even right now, like my guys don't have trouble, because of the I guess the word of mouth, and a lot of builders might be sitting there today saying, yeah, I've got great word of mouth as well. The internet is word of mouth on steroids, guys and girls. That's pretty much what it is. So if you're not using it in that way, and really what I'm saying is that you might have done a great, deck or a great addition or a great bathroom or kitchen. If you're not putting that shit out regularly from, the before shots, the during shots and the after shots, then you're not really executing well enough to give people the reason to talk about you. And so, and if you haven't got a website with the before and after shots maybe, or the client testimonials, then, that's the bare bones marketing in today's marketplace. I don't know what else you want us to do. I've got in the drawer over here with, for my general contractors, what we call We're Remodeling in Your Area brochures. And they are a brochure that basically what I do is the guys are taught that when you go and do a job for that project, you walk down the street on each side of that house and up the other side, and you put this We're Remodeling in Your Area brochure. I know that painters would do that. You might already do that as well, because you get neighbours talking to neighbours. You just want to be on your game, because if you're doing a shit job for neighbour, then they're going to tell their neighbours, and you ain't getting any kind of jobs out of that street. So, You're welcome, Turd Dangler. I'm happy to have you in the house again. All right, so yeah, I hope that answers the question about is there any other type of marketing, networking? Hey,
digital omnipresence.
Yeah, digital omnipresence. But I know one of my guys is part of the Business Network International groups in his town. That's BNI. That's a great networking group. It's kind of just a different view, a different way of doing like a chamber of commerce. You know, they're very loyal to the members. So yeah, let's go with another question.
Disco Boy asked, when should I make the transition into putting all my work through subcontractors? It's a big step.
Yeah, look, it depends on the work you're doing. If you're doing, like I think I shared this on that big project, like when I did a fiveplex, I would say that 99% or 98% of the work was done by subs. Everything was purchase ordered out. That was the way that I grew up doing it. What I found was a little challenging in renos because, you know, trying to get a contractor or a carpenter, let's say, to come in and frame up a bathroom, even if it's got niches and shit, it might only be a day's work. You just couldn't get anyone, right? So, you know, that's when you know, on the smaller reno jobs, you might pay you to have maybe a lead carpenter and an apprentice or a carpenter's helper. So it comes down to what type of work you're doing and then how much of that type of work you're doing before you make that decision to go and double down on, you know, getting away from subs and into getting some of your guys to do the work, or getting away from your guys, slimming down and going all over to purchase orders and subcontractors. Make sure you've got the subcontractor agreement as well. Next question.
Too old for this. This hit. Too old for this hit.
I think that means shit. Too old for this shit.
Oh, this shit. Sorry. Too old for this shit.
Me too.
What's the best project/scheduling software?
All right, we talked about this episode 75.
It is episode 75.
Right, episode 75. I talk about Build Exact, BUILDXACT, Build Exact. If you're in Canada, it's .ca. Episode 75 on the Business for Builders podcast. I will talk a little bit about that. They have a project management / scheduling, which essentially is a Gantt chart that can, you know, you can construct that Gantt chart or that project schedule off the back of your estimate, because you can click a button that says task and it will allocate that line item onto your Gantt chart. So when you go and create a job, it'll already be sitting there. You do have to modify that, but that's essentially what we would use. And like I've mentioned before, we've got over 100 franchise general contractors using Build Exact. And so they take advantage of using that project management software. That's really, I mean, all of them I think have got that kind of spreadsheeted Gantt chart type approach, and it's super practical. You can adjust dependencies and, you know, all predecessors and things like that. And, you know, you can adjust the timelines and the start dates, and you can link it all together in series, or you can have links in parallel. You know, like there's all kinds of, and it's not rocket science, but geez, I don't know how else you would do it without a devoted, you know, piece of software to do it. So hope that helps. Next question.
Eagle Pro Painting asks how to generate commercial leads.
Righto. So here's where I'd say Eagle Pro Painting that I'm going to stay in my lane, because I deal in the retail neck of the woods the majority of my time. I would say that your approach, like our approach too, is B to C, so business to client. Our end users are 50 to 75, I guess. They're homeowners, they're not businesses. A lot of the negative experiences we have are with business owners, because they are shrewd and they do focus on the actual price more than the quality of the service. They want to turn us into a commodity instead of, recognizes that all builders are not the same. So, but I would think to your question, how to generate commercial leads, I think what you would find that if you were going to use digital, LinkedIn, what I would do is I would do targeted ads towards the companies, to the workers of, for the people that work for the companies that you want to target. So if there is like larger commercial type, obviously there's a lot of those on LinkedIn because it's a very business to business type platform. It's I'm not saying that Facebook's out of the question for anything that you do digitally, but obviously, how many commercial companies are going to be on Facebook compared to LinkedIn? It's a no-brainer. It's like me trying to recruit general contractors to join forces with Smith & Sons as franchised operators on Google AdWords, when general contractors don't go searching Google for a general contractor opportunity like Smith & Sons. So I would probably I think definitely Google AdWords would be a place that you could go and really set up targeted campaigns for commercial companies that are looking, they're going to go in there. So some of your keywords on Google AdWords will be, commercial interior painter, something along those lines. Negative keywords might be residential painter. You don't want to get inquiries. You don't want to spend your money on leads for residential. You want to focus on commercial. And usually more often than not, the good thing about when I compare retail, so let's talk retail for a sec. When I look at the types of clients that are approaching us on Facebook, as opposed to the clients that are approaching us on Google AdWords, the clients on Google AdWords that respond to our Google AdWords are actually like, I need a general contractor yesterday, as opposed to Facebook where they'll go, I've just started to look. I've just bought a house and I'm thinking about renovating. They're very different. Their buying processes they're different timelines, right? They're at different timing. So I think for, commercial companies, they're going to be focused on, when they go to Google, commercial painter, interior painting for offices, or office fit out painter, or whatever the case. Think about what that would do. I think you're going to get some really good, but it's going to cost you a pretty penny. Like I probably spend across my whole group easily $2 or $3 grand a month on Google AdWords. So depending on what your revenue target is, if you said you want to do $1 million, you want to spend somewhere between, I would say 1 to 3% of that target on your advertising, and then you've got to go and do it, spend the money, and then let it come to you. This is where, when you've got past clients that you've painted for, you need to get those testimonials on your website so you can have past commercial customers talking to your prospective commercial customers. JP Painters, I hope that helps. Next question.
Mozzie asked, what's the top 3 questions to a potential client to determine if they're tire kicking?
Tire kickers, wood ducks, frigging pretenders, thumb suckers. I frigging hate them. Look, I think, you got to be able to do this subtly enough. I don't know how you say subtly enough in Canadian, but go on, say it. Subtly. How do you say? See, it's a hard word to say, isn't it? Subtly. How do you say it subtly enough? Subtly enough, without blowing them out and making them think that you're an arrogant prick, because all you're trying to do is not waste your time with somebody who's not serious. Because I'm telling you, buyers can be liars. I used to say it a slightly different way, and it's a little more offensive, but I'm not going to say that all. I'm just going to say they can be. Questions that I ask in process of conversation, I might ask them questions. Have you renovated before? Matter of fact, I've got that it's called a discovery document. I'm not going to get you to go and find that in the operations file.
I'm just going to share the Our Buyers Liars episode.
Right, there you go. Brilliant. Okay, so I must have done a I must have done a podcast episode on this, and it's called Are Buyers, is it Are All Buyers Liars?
Just Are Buyers Liars.
Are Buyers Liars. And I talk a lot about that, Mozzie. And essentially, I might ask them questions like, have you renovated before? And they go, oh, yeah, we've done a few renos. I'm like, okay, did you have those done by another general contractor or builder? Or did you do those yourself? Oh, no, I got a builder to do it. I'm like, okay. Oh, so, and did that builder look after you really well? And they're like, oh, yeah, Max, it was my brother-in-law. I'm like, okay, that is a red flag. Because I start to think, well, was the brother-in-law doing a good job? And then he kind of dropped the ball. Now Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner have called me because they want me to be a price checker. Now, I won't say anything, but that's a red flag to me. That's a red flag. Sometimes if I go, and I've done this and I use this as a case study because I really did this, I went and saw that there was, when I bumped, this client rang and said, hey, we've got a basement, remodel that we want to do. Can you check it out for us? And I went down there, and it turns out he was an investor. Now, I don't tend to want to work for investors because what are they looking at? They're looking at the bottom line. So to me, I sent that guy, his name was Tim. I could give you the last name, but I won't. I just sent him, I sent an email off to Tim. I said, mate, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to present a bid for your basement remodel. And he's like, he said, how so? And I said, look, we've got a set of inbuilt criteria. When it comes to finding customers that actually suit us, then, we basically got to work with that proprietary information, and unfortunately, you don't fit that criteria. And he was a little bit pissed, but he understood. Like, he said, okay. So that's one question. So to avoid a tie kicker, that's what I might do. Here's the other thing I ask. Look, and guys and gals, this will actually maybe cover off some other stuff as well. But the best thing you can do to uncover or to separate a player from a pretender is start to talk about what you think as the builder or the general contractor, what you think it's going to cost. So I always listen to people. They want to tell me all about their project and how wonderful it is, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, well, you know what? In my experience, to renovate this bathroom, it's probably going to cost in excess of $20,000 or $25,000. How do you feel about that? And I just watch the blood drain from their head. And before I ask them, I say, well, what was your expectation? And they're like, oh, Max, I thought it was going to be, more like 10 grand. And I'm going, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, heck, we have a bit of a situation. So what I'm not trying to do is, punch them out. What I'm trying to do is just expose to them, and I might say to them, well, what research have you done to come up with that $10,000 expectation, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner? And I'm sure that's got to be in another episode too. I don't know which episode. Oh, that was probably in that Buyers Lies, Our Buyers Lies episode. What number was that? We don't know.
That was episode 15. I wrote it in the group.
Episode 15, right? So Are all buyers lies or Are buyers lies? And so I'm not trying to blow them out. I'm just like, well, what research did you do to come up with that $10,000 expectation? Because it's very different to my what I understand based on my experience. And, my experience is my story. It's pretty hard to argue with somebody's story. So, that's really kind of where it's at. You just want to be very, gracious, but firmness with courtesy, guys and girls. Talking about budget is the best way to expose the pretenders, because if you can know how to ask the right questions, you will be able to say, look, I don't think I'm the right builder for you, and then you might exit stage right. See you later. Next question.
That's all the questions we have.
All right, folks. Well, we have made it. We've been at this now for an hour and 20. If you've been with us, if you've buzzed in and buzzed out.
We did get one. Sorry.
Okay, let's go.
Stu asks how to go from tier 2 commercial to do my own residential development business.
Resi dev business. Look, obviously it depends on if you've had, Stu, any experience in resi, mate. Like, you might be if you've just been involved in commercial, the standards in commercial differ from the standards in residential. And I'm telling you too, there's a part of working for businesses that I really love, because they're no bullshit operators. You can call a spade, but I'm telling you, things can get pretty antsy because they are very budget oriented. We love dealing with resi customers because what makes it easy for me to sell is that they're highly strung emotionally. What makes it really difficult for me to deal with resi customers is that they're highly strung emotionally. So I've got to really tiptoe. I've got to empathize a lot. I've got to walk in their shoes and understand where they're coming from a lot. These are residential customers. I've got to be prepared to give probably in some cases more than I'm getting for a short amount of time to win the long game. And so I really have to focus on thinking about the long game as opposed to winning the argument today. So look, and then if you have come from a mostly commercial background, I would say don't make the move until you're really educated as much as you can. I would urge you to just check out maybe my YouTube channel. Like I said, all of these Q&A sessions are recorded on camera. We put those, in a special list on YouTube.
Yes.
Yep, and then every one of these, because this is an hour and 24 right now. Seriously, we've got to go because we've got beer to drink. Seriously. But all of they're all timestamped, so you can look at all the questions that have been asked during these episodes, these lives, and you can literally scroll down, listen to the 5-10 minutes of me raving on, and it's a really great resource. So if you're just in the startup phase, I'm sure I can help you, Stu, get to know the resi side of things and how to operate a business. I'm not going to really tell you how to build shit, although we can, maybe cover off some of that, but really, you'd want to come with the technical understanding and then stick close to us to learn some of the business aspects and the financial aspects and the sales aspects, which is a mixture of science and psychology. I hope that helps, Stu. Anything else? Wow, we have rocked out another almost 90-minute session.
Stu, giving you some love.
Mate, look, this is the comment from Stu. You're a legend. Thanks for the response with an added info. It gives me a lot of critical information, mate. You are bloody welcome. And you too, Mozzie, mate. Thanks for the love. I appreciate it. You're looking at it from Oz, so you're getting it on a Saturday morning. Notice the spelling that Australians use to spell Saturday, all you North Americans. Saturday. I think we need to use that somewhere. And look, I really love the fact that Stu thinks it's an awesome live. I just want to be here to offer value. It's our Friday afternoon. We're going to go and crack a beer. Be sure to check out the Business for Builders YouTube channel. Be sure to check out the Business for Builders podcast. When you're driving down the road, folks, you can be listening to me flap on about all kinds of shit. Too old for this shit. Much appreciated is your love too, mate. I really appreciate you chiming in and asking a few questions. And David Gray's flicked us some likes as well. Kyle's just joined. Look, it's Friday afternoon. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Just keep reaching out if you need help. You can email me at max@Business for Builders. Go build a kick-ass business, and I will see you on the next Business for Builders Live. Have a great one. Talk soon.